G'day guys, welcome. I'm bitterly disappointed and extremely flat. Um, Probably worse this morning than I was last night and post the game. And I've sought my late father's cardigan, which he gave to me. I think he got it from South America. I'll have to ask Mum, but I had my eye on it for a long time, and Dad never really wore it. Dad was a bit like that. He'd buy stuff that he'd never wear. I think he got it in South America. Look, I must admit, if you're thinking this is one of the ugliest things that you've ever seen, but I wanted to feel comfortable this morning and warm because it is a bit cold here in Melbourne, and I am a little bit, well, I am really flat. It'll get better. It'll get better. And I'm not necessarily gutted. So I love winning. We all love winning and understand the importance of winning and banking these wins early in the season, all that type of stuff. And didn't expect really to lose that game of football yesterday, which makes that a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow. I'll get to why I'm feeling rather flat. And there's probably quite a few of you probably feeling the same way. God, it was a tough battle. It was a tough battle getting from our seats at Marvel Stadium out onto the concourse and then to Southern Cross Station. I've never seen so many people in the one spot at the one time trying to make their way to the train station or probably the city for some of them to get on the juice. It was shoulder to shoulder, and I was trying to keep in contact with my mum, who I went to the football with, and I didn't want to lose her. And it was a weird feeling, like a weird feeling of you haven't won a game of football. It wasn't a pleasant sort of position to be in. A little bit of space, a little bit of shock. Some dude on a guitar was I couldn't see him, but he was belting out a cover version of Sweet Caroline, which went down like a lead balloon. Isn't that the biggest fucking bogan song in the history of the world? Oh my God. Anyway, we finally made our way to the train station and got onto our train. There's so many people. And it was a long, I wouldn't say lonely trip back to Werribee because the train was packed. And I did bump into, and I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name on this, I'm sure he won't, but Andrew Wu, who's a really, really fine journalist for The Age newspaper, particularly in cricket, but he also does work for football as well. He's on a bit of a break at the moment, school holiday type stuff. And with his young family, he's a Carlton supporter, and he was at the game just as a fan with his kids. He was going back to the West, as I was as well, and he introduced himself and we had a great chat, and we were both pretty flat with that performance, really flat, but also somewhat realistic of where this group is at. Once he got off the train, and then I had a further 30 minutes with my mum, we were just, I don't know. I was obviously thinking about a lot of things, because we want this to be, we know how brutal it is and how close this competition is, and that was shown yesterday, but we want this to be the year, we want this to be the year, and you just know the importance of finishing as high up on the ladder as possible. We just know. We saw it with Collingwood last year. They sort of fell away a little bit late in the year, but they just had banked enough wins to finish top two and get home finals, and how important that was for them to remain at the MCG, and get those games at the MCG and close wins they had. Anyway, full credit to the Crows. They brought it. They really did bring it. And they didn't necessarily surprise me because I mentioned in the preview that they turned the corner somewhat against the D's in gather round, although their method wasn't great forward as centre. But you can fix method. And maybe that's got a lot to do with confidence. And, you know, they'd started the year poorly. They couldn't score against Fremantle. A close loss against the Gold Coast Suns. There were no bunnies on their home deck. And look out for Geelong. Geelong beat them. And they've obviously a proud group, and they showed last year that they're very, very, very capable, very capable. And they've gone away and clearly focused on what they needed to improve. But the one thing they got right against the D's, pretty much for maybe 3/4, there was a few lapses in that game for them, was their application and effort and intensity. And any football team will know when you get that right, but things aren't happening. But you're not getting blowouts, you're not getting blown away. It's not like they're horrific losses. That if you keep the faith, and then work on the things that you really want to work on, and work on the strengths of your game as well, which had eluded them, which was their work forward as centre. And that was a clear focus for Matthew Nicks and his team. And you keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. It will click, it will change. And it did for them. And they were super across the 4 quarters, and they were extremely efficient. And I love efficient football teams, I really do. And this is one thing that somewhat frustrates me with our football team, is our efficiency. And this isn't just necessarily our missed shots, on goal. And we kicked 14-14 yesterday, and they kicked 16-14. But just, you look at those marks inside forward 50. They've had 18 marks inside 50 to our 11, and we've got 2 of the best key forwards in the competition, but we continue to bomb the ball inside forward 50 and just think it's going to happen. Now it does. For the most part, it does happen. We do generally, we've won more games than we've lost over the last 8 months or so. So it has been somewhat working, but it doesn't feel like it ever comes really easily, other than just having super talented forwards who've got some genuine X factor, and can take a contested grab, or can, have a purple patch like a Charlie. It feels like it is hard work when we go forward as centre, and Adelaide showed yesterday what it's all about. They showed what it's all about, to take 18 marks inside 50, to give the amount of fucking latitude and leg rope that we afforded to their dangerous forwards. And I'm not stupid. I know it's, this team defence, and maybe our defenders were let down, and we like to zone because we have this pressure further up the field, and it's a team defence aspect. But surely when we weren't getting that right, that you are able to change it up and rectify your starting position on your forwards, and show them some fucking respect. And that for me was the most glaring and frustrating thing that came out of that game for me yesterday. And if there's not a really strong review on that from our senior leaders at this football club, and I'm going to name it, I thought fucking Jacob Wiedering was woeful yesterday. Woeful. And yes, I'll say it again. He was probably let down early in the game with a lack of pressure further up the field. But come on, mate. The amount of leverage that you gave to an extremely efficient footballer who's a beautiful kicker of the footy, Tex Walker, was disgraceful. You were a fucking mile behind him, and he gave you an absolute pantsing. And don't get me started on Ben Keys. And that was a combination of Zach Williams, Jordan Boyd, Adam Sard, maybe Nick Newman, take your pick. They all were responsible at times for him. Isaac Rankin, Josh Rochelle. Lack of respect, disorganised, poor defensively further up the field. We should be better than that. So I'm not buying into the fact that we got the ball up the other end, okay, and missed opportunities, because our method going inside forward 50 continues to be a real area of concern. We were getting our shots on goal from difficult positions, and they thoroughly deserved to win that game of football. And when we were 16 points up with 7 minutes remaining, and we thought we had broken them. We thought this Adelaide football team that had come to the Marvel Stadium had given their best shot. And we took not necessarily our foot off the pedal. Yeah, maybe we did, but I think we gave them a sniff, just like Fremantle did to us last week, and that was in the end a bit of a train wreck, a real train wreck, and a bit of a reality check of exactly where I think we are at in regards to a little bit of our method and form at the start of this year, and our work around the ball, which was slightly better yesterday, but nowhere near where it should be. And there's a hell of a lot of work to do, but a hell of a lot of this season still to play out. But I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact, because even if we'd won that game of footy, I think there's still problems. A lot of the teams have got things they need to improve on. So let's not panic in that space. But I'll tell you why I'm flat. And I'll go through the players shortly as well. I'll tell you why I'm flat. Because even if we won that game, when I saw McGovern sitting on the bench with his hamstring iced in the last quarter, and it was on the big screen, and Sard had gone off, and Chera hamstring before the game had even started and was laid out. I'm not quite sure how late that was. And wasn't it just funny how Pitnet was an emergency and he just came in as if it was all planned all along, that Chera was never playing and Pitnet was always going to come in, and they just had that planned, and it just stunk that. But that doesn't really matter. The injury is the injury. It's not necessarily the fact that Pitnet come in. I mean, didn't necessarily work. It helped us a little bit around clearance, I think, but he's just not a very good player. He didn't even take one mark. He just can't mark the pill. I didn't think TOK was that effective either yesterday, and I just don't know if they work together. But the injuries. I mean, what the fuck's going on? I hate now we're in a position that we're going to have to potentially use this as a reason once again. The durability of this list, the durability of this football club from a health point of view is a disgrace. It is a fucking disgrace. And to look at that injury list already, and then to be compounded by another 3 yesterday, well, Chera not included in yesterday, but McGovern and Sard, hamstring injuries on top of Chera. Not the first time Chera's had hamstring injuries. Not the first time McGovern's had hamstring injuries. And then all those other guys like Martin and Cunningham, who always, Marchbank, always on the sideline. And now the fact that there's guys who I don't think are, it's not that they're not pulling their weight in this team, but no one can tell me everyone out there at the moment is deserving of a spot in this team at the moment. So fix it. And if you're not going to fix it this year, I want to see what's going to take place at the end of this year. And I did mention in my preview that, it's probably better to have these injuries now, but it is going to impact us. It is going to impact us because we are in the business of winning games of football and finishing really, really high up on the ladder. And I think they know. I actually think Voss knows that. He knows that. He knows you've got to finish top 2, top 4 in this competition. They all know that. It needs to be fixed. And I've got no fucking idea about why. A combination of a lot of things, but the durability of this list and getting the blokes out on the park and getting somewhere near, because you're never going to, somewhere near our strongest team, and that never happens. And I think we're all fucking sick of it. All fucking sick of it. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So it needs to be fixed, whether that's at the end of the year, changes need to be made because it's a joke, an absolute joke. And we go into next week. And I know the Giants have lost Cornelio with, I think, a knee injury. Did he hurt himself? And a concussion for Sam Taylor. Let's not forget, though, that last year that the Giants still beat us at Marvel without Sam Taylor. He didn't play. Those soft tissue injuries and the continued players who are always on the sidelines, and now, it is not good enough. Okay. Let's go to the players. All right. Hollands, it was a little bit better yesterday. I'm talking about Oliver Hollands a little bit, but not seeing it with Ollie. Not seeing it. 12 disposals, 143 metres gained, not seeing it. Williams, I thought started to really build offensively, but let's face it, that plethora of sort of medium, small forwards had a bit of work to do once McGovern and Saab went off and had to rearrange that with Matthew Kennedy going down there. But the amount of leg rope given to those smallish type forwards was not good enough defensively. Kennedy thought he battled away when he went down onto Rankin. He didn't look too out of place in the back half. Didn't think it was an awful game by Matty Kennedy. I actually thought he was one of our best. Cripps, I thought he had 14 handballs, 8 kicks. He's had the 7 clearances, which was a better performance at the coalface from him. But I thought he was under pressure a lot with his handballs. He didn't necessarily release in good spots. Harry, he just battled away. A really good matchup with Butts. Butts did quite well. Started really well, went out of it, then came back in, took some really strong marks, 10 marks. Thought he was, sort of bounced back from last week. I think McGovern's off anyway, even before he went off. But what McGovern does provide you in those close games late is a really steady head. And not to have him out there late in the game, I think really did hurt us. But I think he's off. I think last week he was a little bit down. I didn't think he was at all good yesterday before he went off. De Conning just didn't look as effective. 120 hit outs, probably. I just can't see the combination working properly. I didn't think, because he wasn't in there all the time, that he could get his groove, and he's just not a forward. Akers in his 150th kicked a really important goal late and just battled away, made a few mistakes, as he had across the first start of this year. But he's had 496 metres gained, and once again was one of our better players. Fantasia, he's getting a game. Just getting a game. Good stuff. Jack Carroll got an opportunity really early. He came on and showed absolutely nothing. Kemp actually thought he was our best defender for the first 3 quarters. Thought he took a bloke that's given us some headaches in Darcy Fogarty out of the game. And I thought he defended really well. He was one player that really was responsible for an opponent. But once again, with Kemp, he made a couple of blues. I think there was a kick up the corridor where he panicked. May have been in the second quarter, and then there was a bit of a spill late in the game. But I actually thought he was probably our best big yesterday. Sam Walsh just, what do you say? 13 tackles. 13 tackles for a bloke that's just come back in after a long layoff and 34 disposals. A little bit messy early, but just worked his ring off. Thank God he was out there, really. Thank God he was out there. Corey Durden, not seeing it. Lovely goal, but just not seeing it. Not seeing it. Our small forwards are no good at the moment. They're no good at the moment. Elijah Hollands, funny game. I actually noticed him a lot, but he's only had 12 touches. He probably looked the most cleanest player out there in regards to his ball handling. We were terribly fumbly. He's good on both sides of the body. Kicked a nice goal. Would have liked more from him offensively, but yeah, something to work with. Wiedering was horrible, absolutely horrible. And we ask questions, and we sometimes a little bit, we get a little bit offended when this guy is not considered for an All-Australian position because he puts in those types of performances. And yes, I will repeat, I understand that they didn't get the favours, our defenders, of the pressure further upfield, but his arrogance not to go, okay, it's just not working out, I'm going to have to really be a little bit tighter on Tex. And if you were at that game yesterday, not watching on the tube, but if you were at that game, which I was yesterday, I looked at that matchup and he was a mile behind him. And he gave him an absolute bath. Nick Newman, I liked his game. Thought he battled away really well. Pitnet, yeah, won some clearances. He had 6 clearances, but they're messy clearances. He does pay the way. Did he help us with the clearances? Was even in the middle. But they just felt that they had clearer ball movement from the stoppages. All game, Adelaide. So when they got their clearances, they spread really well. I didn't necessarily think we did that. Hewitt, serviceable. Kerno, good. Liked his game. 4 goals, 3. A little bit off target at times, but I think him and Keane had a great tussle. I actually didn't mind Keane's game for the Crows, and he took that great mark late in the game. It was a really good tussle. Boyd was okay with 17 touches, used the ball pretty well, but once again, those smalls really killed us. Sard, thought he was off even before he went off in his game, I'm saying. It's funny when Keys kept kicking those goals early in the game and no one wanted to go to him. It was almost like, oh, it's your turn now to go stand next to him. Yeah, it was funny. Owies, the same. I mean, we had that. I'm not criticising Matthew Owies for that missed opportunity late in the game. I'm not, because he looked out on his feet, to be perfectly honest. Those blokes they're hard games of football, and he looked out on his feet, the poor bastard. But he's probably our best small forward, which is saying something, really, isn't it, at the moment? Yeah, be interesting to see what happens when Motlop's ready to come back. And Matthew Cottrell, if you're going to play that high half forward role and impact the scoreboard, you've got to make the most of those opportunities, mate. And he's had 11 disposals, kicked a goal, but missed a pretty easy one. A say-so game from Cotters as well. So, yeah, really, really disappointing performance, but one that a lot of teams will have. We're not the only team that are going to lose close games, and we've been a little bit spoilt in that aspect, but I'm flat, really flat, that we're not going to have anywhere near, and I mean anywhere near, a decent side, which makes it a real challenge. It makes it a real big challenge over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks to to try and somehow square the ledger. And what I mean by that is, we're going to have to steal a couple of wins over the next month to give ourselves an opportunity. And hopefully we can get some numbers back shortly because, it is a big fucking concern, those injuries, guys. Speak soon.